Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone here tonight. Well, thanks for joining us this evening. Hello and welcome to Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship of North Carolina's October 1st, 2020 event. I especially want to say hello to the people who are joining us for the first time. We are glad you're here. And just in case you don't know, we are an organization that has been meeting in person every month, more or less, for 47 years. So this is a very unique and wonderful opportunity for us to meet many more people. So we're really enjoying this venue. My name is Susan Hunter, and I am the chairperson and program coordinator for SFF. Our tagline, or our motto, is shining a light into the metaphysical community since 1973. So I want to ask you a question. Who is Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship? If you joined us last month, you'll know the answer already. But, well, you are our fellowship and you are our community, and we are glad you're here. However, we are also a nonprofit, volunteer-run organization who invites experts in the fields or master teachers to share their information on a variety of topics that are within the realm of spirituality, healing arts, communication with other dimensional beings, and transformation in general. So our goal is to help this community raise its awareness and consciousness to uplift you on your spiritual path. Oh, by the way, if you want to help, we are looking for new board members for SFF. Social media and program coordinator are the two most needed positions, but we welcome you if you have a talent that would contribute to our group too. So you're welcome to email me, Susan Hunter, at chairperson@spiritual-frontiers.com. So with all of our lectures, as with any information that you receive, we ask that you use your own discernment and find the truth that resonates with you inside your heart. And we're very excited to have Mr. Chris Bledsoe here tonight to speak to us about My Journey with the Angels. I invite you to join us for our upcoming speakers. And if one of these topics resonates with you, just put it on your calendars. The best way to get notices is to sign up for the SFF e-flyer that goes out twice a month with our upcoming events. You can sign up for that one on the SFF website, which is spiritual-frontiers.com. We also have YouTube, Facebook, Meetup, Instagram pages, which you are invited to like, share, and subscribe. So, upcoming events. We are going to have, well, of course, Chris Bledsoe is here this evening. And next month is Garth Robertson, Sacred Sound Healing, How Frequency Affects Matter, on November 5th. He will bring his didgeridoos, crystal bowls, and other healing tools to help us understand, not only understand, but experience his work. Marcia Moon Hebrank on December 3rd will be joining us, and her talk will be on Opening to Grace, Discovering and Embracing Your Divine Gifts with the Help of the Angels. Then on January 7th, 2021, Catherine Zola Allen will be joining us, and she has been highly recommended by Philip Young, who is one of our more popular master astrologers in the area. And they are in a group together, and she has lived in California, all over California, most of her life, and has traveled the world. And about a year ago, she said her intuition was telling her to move. So she's in North Durham now and has built a tiny house. And so we will be welcoming her into our community in January. So we have a little bit of housekeeping here. There will be a 10-minute intermission from 8:20 to 8:30 approximately. to give our speaker a break. And at the end, we will have questions and answers portion from 9:15 to about 9:30. At that time, we will open the chat box for questions. Right now, we're not going to do that, just so that the speaker will have, his space to talk and not be distracted. So, of course, at the end, please put all your questions in the Zoom chat, and we will answer questions. So, okay. So, of course, go to our website if you need any more information. I would like to thank SFF would like to thank Sagewood Healing Center in Raleigh for their support for our broadcast. That's where we're doing these programs, and the energy here is just wonderful, so it really is a good space for us to be. I want to ask you another question very quickly. Did you notice there was no fee for tonight's event? So we are asking that if you find this meeting has value to you, to please make a donation on our website at spiritual-frontiers.com. We would like to be able to continue our work for our metaphysical community, and we welcome your financial support. Okay. So one other housekeeping thing is, if you haven't used Zoom that often, when Chris is going to be showing some PowerPoints, and if you click speaker view up in the right-hand corner, there's a vertical bar that shows up that you can make his picture bigger or the PowerPoint bigger. But if you don't do that, he's going to be in this little thumbnail up in the corner. So I wanted to share that with you in case you didn't know that about the Zoom meetings. Maybe you can use that for another meeting as well. So I have the honor to introduce Chris tonight. Chris will describe to us an amazing encounter he had in 2007. He will further explain how the incident has changed him and his view of the world. In the many years since his first meeting, Chris has experienced an ongoing relationship with the aliens. As he says, the beings have taught me much. Actually, this is in the works right now. A television series is being developed, and it's actually like a 5-year series, is being developed from his experiences. But he can't talk too much about that, but I just want y'all to know to be on the lookout for it. Chris has a commercial pilot, was a commercial pilot from 1986 to 2005, owned an award-winning construction business in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He was nominated as Businessman of the Year in 2003. He is also a rescue scuba diver, and prior to his encounter was a noted hunter. But since his experience, he has given up the sport of hunting. Chris lives in Hope Mills, North Carolina with his wife, Yvonne, and their 4 adult children who reside nearby. And he also has a grandbaby now, too. He enjoys building projects, gardening, being in service to others, using his healing gifts, and traveling with his wife. So the first part of his talk, he's going to be giving details of his first encounter. And the second half of his talk, he's going to be talking more about the experience that he had during the spring of 2019, where a lady appeared to him.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm honored to be here, and I want to thank Susan and SFF for having me back. I actually was here 5 years ago and did a talk, and I'm honored to be back. And so what I've got to do is, this thing has been ongoing, it's still ongoing, probably more activity now than ever. And there's a lot of witnesses to it and data. I've taken a lot of videos and photos of this stuff. And but what I need to do is spend the first bit on the actual experience, where it all started in 2007, and then I'll try to get into some of the ongoing stuff and what's happening and what it means. I think Susan has has mentioned this, but we're going to go back to 2007 on January the 8th of '07. And what I want to do here is very important to understand how I know what I'm. In other words, I want to describe to you how it happens to me and how it is a spiritual thing. So many people see UFOs and they automatically think alien. Well, I don't think alien. I've never seen an alien that I would call it an alien, because here's where it starts. And I'm gonna roll back first though to when I was 10 years old. I grew up in the country out in south of Hope Mills, North Carolina, about 15 miles, more like 9 from Hope Mills. But I grew up and never believed in this kind of stuff. When I was 10 years old, I was a hunter, an avid hunter. My dad was a deer hunter. He hunted everything: bear, deer, birds. He raised dogs up until he passed away. He had a whole kennel full of dogs, a lot of them, and that comes into this story. So when I was 10, I was deer hunting, actually bird hunting, on New Year's Day, 1972. I was shot point blank in the back with a shotgun from my neighbor. It was an accident, and it blew a hole this big, my back here, and I have lead in here. You can see some of it, you can feel it, but it was a miracle that I made it through that. And to this day, if I go through the airport, I set all the machines off because of the lead in me. But what I told my wife when I married her, and she found out I had this scar, everybody wanted to know what in the world. And I was shot. And the experience was that, and it never made sense to me as a young child, but I could see Earth. I was in a bubble, like something clear. And I could touch the walls, and it was there, but I couldn't see it. And I could look back and see the Earth getting smaller. And I woke up in surgery. They had rolled me out of surgery into an X-ray machine. Back then, 40 years ago, they didn't have all the technology. So they would take me in and out of surgery, checking for lead. And I woke up, and that's where I was. That's all I remember the whole time. So let's fast forward to 2005, 2004. '05 is when my wife and I sold our construction company. I'd had it 19, 20 years. We were building 100 homes a year plus, some years 120. The world was at war. Interest rates were 8, 9%. It was just the worst time to be in the building business. And Fort Bragg was sending troops overseas, and nobody was buying. And I had Crohn's disease, and I had it for 17 and a half years until the January the 7th, January the 8th of 2007. That's when I no longer had Crohn's disease. So in '05, '04, I was very sick. I had flared really bad. For 2 years, I could hardly get out of bed to attend to a construction company. And so my mindset was, I'm at the bottom of the barrel. What do I do? And I had quit work. We sold our company. 2 years, I laid in bed until I got a hold of a doctor that over-medicated me. 2 doctors wasn't working together, and I had a near-death experience in '04. And that's when my wife took on the task of selling our business while I was in this state. So I come through that, and now we're going to go to 2007. 2 years later, my dad, we had moved, sold our home, basically lost my company, lost my ability to fly because of my medical. So I was at a crossroads. What do I do? And I hadn't worked in a long time, and my father arranged for myself and a crewman to build a house on the beach. He talked me into it. So I took them down. We spent 4 months building it, and it was just before Christmas of that year, '06. I came home with my oldest boy, Chris Jr. He was down helping me build the house, and I left the crew there and told them when they're finished I actually did a punch list with them. So they came back to Fayetteville. We paid them off, and now they're ready to celebrate a 4-month project being over. So here we go. It was a cold day, cool, like I want to say a Monday or Tuesday. It was a weekday for sure. And it was about lunchtime. They called me. They were coming home from the coast. And they said, let's go fishing. I said, well, come get your checks. They did. They went to town and cashed them. They came back and home, and they called. So it was 2:30 in the afternoon. I picked them up. I had the only 4-wheel drive truck. And where we were going was on, you'd have to cross and we'll show pictures in a minute of this, where if you're on the main highway, you would take and go across the field, about 200 yards of field, to the far side, and then it goes down through the woods real thick, about a quarter mile down to a cul-de-sac, a little grassy acre area down along the bank of the river. So just to drive down in there was quite a chore. And if you want to, we can show you the Cape Fear River. This is in Fayetteville. This is probably 10 miles south of Fayetteville. Okay, so that first one there. Okay, that's the bank of the Cape Fear River and south of Fayetteville. It's about 75 yards wide there. And that cold January day, about 2:30, I picked the guys up and we drove down to that spot right there. And we parked the truck. I'm actually facing the truck where it would have been parked. And my son and 3 of these subcontractors, crew leaders were there, and they were at about 3:30, they were fishing. And I felt like they were taken care of, so I walked away from them. I said, I'm going to walk away, and we can let's get to another. Yeah, that was me. My agent thought I should have these photos in here when I was a little guy. But there's another one of, okay, now there's the same view, but further back. And what you're going to see is that, if I can move one more slide or two, there's like 3. Okay. Now, go back to the last slide if you can. There you go. Well, all these, okay, right here. Mm-hmm. The next slide will show the back end of the cul-de-sac where it's real thick. And that's important because along about 5 in the afternoon, I had gone on a walk, left them fishing, and about 10 minutes to 5, I came back out of the forest, and I was just meditating on how sick I felt. This is very important. I got back to where they were sitting there on the bank and said, do you want to stay or you want to fish more? And they wanted to fish. So I said, it's going to get cold tonight. It's forecast to frost. So let's get a fire going. So they all stopped, and we started scurrying around the cul-de-sac, picking up logs and twigs. And about 10 after 5, and back in here, the truck was actually facing that direction, parked exactly there, and to the left would be the view of the river. At the far back in there, And you'll hear me say later, when I found Christopher, he's in the very back of this spot, in the back of that cul-de-sac, up under those bushes. So, how do you do it? Okay. All right. Now, this is the standing in the same place, river to the left. This is behind me. This is the way out of the river bottom. And what happened was at 10 after 5, it's in January, it's cool, the sun's already starting to set, and we got a fire going now. And I'm going to walk up that road there and go back up to the top of the hill and sit. This is what my plans were, to sit beside the field, meditate, just be away from anybody, and try to find whoever's up there listening, because that's what I was doing. I was calling out to God, if you hear me, I need you. That's all I was doing the whole time. And because I had just come through a near-death experience, lost everything, and I always held my emotions in. So long story short, I walk up that path, and when I get to the end of this path, it turns left, and maybe there's a further, that's at the top of the hill. But, well, yeah. Well, anyhow, when you got to the end of the other path, which was the 1/8 of a mile, then it's the 1/8 of a mile up that. So it's only a 1/4 mile walk to where that truck is parked. You see the truck there. So about 10 minutes, about 5:20, 5:30, somewhere in there, I made my way to about this position, and you can see the field is on the far side, the other side of this gate, and the road is 200 yards further than that. So you got to go through the gate, cross the field, into the highway. When I got about that point, it's dark now, and I'm watching my feet because it's muddy, and I didn't want to step in the mud hole. It's getting dark, and I got just about there, and I noticed on the far side of the field, I thought was the sun shining. It looked like the sun when you can look at it in the evening and it doesn't hurt your eyes. And so I'm looking down, walking, I'm looking up, and it didn't really get me to start with when I first saw it. I just thought sun, strange, but sun. And I walked on up another 5 feet, and so now my peripheral vision is wider. You can see further out. And now there's 2 of these suns sitting there. And they're on the other side of that field, 2 red, and I think we have a slide of that. Maybe we can fast forward to that. That's the other side of the gate there. Go ahead, right there. Now this is what I'm seeing. Now this is standing at the gate, looking across the field, and the trees underneath those orbs is the main highway. That's the paved road. So I came from there, drove down across the field, and I'm walked back up, and that's what I run into. And so immediately I went into hiding. I'd forgot about everything that ever bothered me at that moment. I was terrified. I'm looking at these, and they're sitting there, and I had this thought, I'm going to run. So I looked back down the hill, and all I could think about is my son, and these guys are down at the fire fishing. And I've got to get back down to where they are. I don't like what I'm seeing. So I actually turned my body down the hill in a motion to run, and I turned back to look back here to see if they were still there, because I would use the hill to hide myself. I could duck down, I couldn't see them. I'd stand up, there they were, or just kind of raise up. And the moment I went to run is when up above me, a third one of those just appeared out of thin air. It just come out of a hole, and it shot down beside to the left of those 2. I think that, yeah, now this is what I'm looking at, 3 of them. And so the next thing I remember is I am in not a run, but a little trot, like a small trot, not even a fast walk, just I broke a walk to a little trot, and I'm trotting up to the fire. And the guys are standing there looking at me, and they're like, "Where have you been?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I was just up at the field." I'm like, "Just what do you mean?" They're like, "We've been looking for you all night." I noticed my truck was moved, the fire was gone, and there's just three guys standing there. And I'm like, "Well, where's my son?" They said, "Well, we lost him 2 hours ago. He went in the back of the cul-de-sac," which is where I had gone early in the day. I walked in the woods. I came back out, and they knew I had gone in there. So Junior went in there looking for me while they took my truck and drove out to the road and up and down the highway. To now, I'm looking. Here's Christopher gone. I didn't stick around to spend much talk with them. I ran right on back to the back of the cul-de-sac where they had last seen him. So if you saw that photo, it was really thick in there. And so I'm no flashlight. I'm making my way into the edge of the forest, and I'm shouting for him, "Where are you, son? Where are you?" He's like, no word. So about the third or fourth, and he could hardly speak. He was in shock. I mean, his words were sounding very strange to me. He's like, "Daddy, where you been? Why'd you leave me? These creatures, you won't believe these creatures." He's telling me all this. And I'm like, "I was just up at the field, son. I haven't been gone." "Yes, you've been gone all night." I said, "No, I haven't, son. I've been gone 15, 20 minutes. Well, now it's 11 o'clock. And I left walking up the hill at about 10 minutes to 5. And so now they're not orange, they look bright white. And so that's when pandemonium set in. It scared us all extremely bad. I wasn't as scared. I was more amused. The only thing I could think of is whatever happened in those 4.5 hours I was gone took the fear from me, from the way it was with them. They were totally terrified. I was driving the truck. We left our fishing poles there. We left our coolers there. We didn't even wait. We just ran, jumped in my truck, and Chris Jr.'s in the front. These three guys are in the back, and I floor it. And I'm going down this dirt road, and the bushes from the road is wider now. But at that time, the bushes were so overgrown, they were hitting my mirrors on my truck. And it's wallowing in this foot deep mud going in and out. And I couldn't go fast enough for them. They were screaming and shouting. And what had happened is Chris Jr., when he went looking for me to the back of that cul-de-sac, I'd gone out that long path. You see, I showed you the path where I walked out the long path. Well, he could see that long path from the back of that cul-de-sac. And he had gone back in there shouting for me while the guys went out with the truck. And what he describes is he sees way down that path, 200 yards down there, he sees two red balls of light about the size of maybe this big. And they just kind of went across the road together, across that path. And he's seeing them, if you can back up like 2 or 3, I'll show you. Yeah, right here. So he's all the way in the back. Oh, I went the wrong way. He's all the way in the back of this cul-de-sac. And if you turn around, you're looking this way. So standing in the back, he sees in the far end these two red orbs across the road. He walks back over to the fire where they're fishing, and he tells them, can't find his dad. these two red balls of light crossed the road. He didn't know what they were, and they got upset with him. Don't play no jokes. They were getting spooked by them because I wasn't around, and so he walked back away from them, went back to the back of the cul-de-sac, and that time when he gets there, these orbs come back out of the woods from the right, and they're standing in the path now, two floating. They look like floating balls of light. And here they come all the way down that path towards him. And by the time they got within 15 or 20 feet, he could see plainly what they were: 3 foot tall, 3.5 feet tall, glowing little beings that had these red glowing eyes that they actually looked like the marker lights on a transfer truck, little round lights about that size. And they would close. I never saw them close, but he described they would close from top to bottom like a shutter. So he's sitting there on the ground, hiding, because he sees them coming. As he sees them getting closer, he gets scared and he starts hiding. He lays down and backs up under all this thick stuff you see. And they know he's there. They come right up to him. They stay around him for nearly an hour and a half or an hour or more. He laid there, unable to scream. He couldn't, when they would look at him, he was totally paralyzed. He felt paralyzed. He couldn't scream. He couldn't yell. He couldn't move. He described one of them always looking and the other picking up cans and sticks. And he actually said the truck, when the truck came back down the driveway, shining the lights from that direction there, they turned around, saw the lights, and dove into a hole where a tree had blown over from the hurricane. And so all that is put him in shock, extremely bad. And I mean, it took a long time for him to get over that. And so as we're in the truck, leaving out this path right here, going down that path, and it was muddier then, one of the guys is looking back behind the truck and sees the red orb come out of the forest where I found Junior. So undoubtedly they were still in there. And the orb comes out of the woods and it's trailing the truck up this path and follows us all the way to the top of the hill. So when we get to the top of this hill, which is the gate, when we go through the gate, that's it. You can see the truck on the bottom right there. That was my pickup truck. But that's what we're looking at. And we're looking at this 3 orbs. Well, we're actually seeing these 2 orbs we're looking at. And the third one on the left is now sitting on the ground about that tree in the middle of the road. So it's behind that tree and it's sideways in the highway, in the dirt road. And we can't go forward. We don't want to go back. We just came from down the bottom where 3 landed, and we got 2 orbs in the sky and 1 on the ground. The one on the ground is no longer orange. It's glowing bright white. It's shaped like an egg laying on its side. Maybe a football, but more egg-shaped, laying flat. And it has light going around it at such a rate that it's throwing out these, looks like spikes or blades of light. It's just the most fantastic thing you ever saw. So there's a mobile home to the right there. Nobody had a cell phone. I'd gotten rid of mine. The doctor told me to get rid of it. So people quit calling. You know, it's just stress is what makes Crohn's worse. So after 2 or 3 minutes of us panic there, these guys are screaming, this is the end. I'll never see my wife and children again. We were going through all this, thought we were being invaded from outer space. So I take my truck and I turn right and I drive up to this mobile home and I put my headlights, go back one, I think, there, this mobile home. So I pull up to this mobile home and it's got a little porch there and the door's wide open and this thing's hovering in the road and these lights are all there and the TV's playing in this mobile home. and the cars are there, and we're knocking on the door, and nobody comes to the door. And the next day, they went back to get our equipment and stopped there, and they said they were home all night, but for some reason, they didn't hear us at the front door blowing the horn or beating on it. And that was a really strange thing. So I backed my truck back out into this path, and now I'm facing this thing again. And about this time, we hear three gunshots. Well, immediately this thing turns, like pivots. It just pivots in the road, and it's now pointing straight at us, and here it comes. And it lifts itself up over that little tree in the road, and is just above that tree in front of us when it come over the top of my truck, barely above that power line. And it was no sound. We were all looking at it through the skylight and our sunroof and out the windows and stuff. I could have shot it with a slingshot. And it was just blinding, brilliant white light. And it kind of pivoted again and shot off towards the north. So I floored a gas and down this road out to the highway, and I make a right. And we're still heading at these things. Everybody's still seeing them. And now we got one flying along beside us on our left side. This ball of light comes flying by and trails on past us. We get on down the road another quarter or half a mile, I guess, and there's a cut down area. You'll hear, if you look at the old MUFON tapes, they talk about that cut down. There was lights all out in the middle of a 200-acre timbered area where there's not a house exists, but they were all in that field that night. So we ended up with a scuffle who would get to go home first. And we actually had to go about 6 or 8 miles out of the way to take one of the guys home because he demanded to get home to his family first. So we dropped him off, went back, dropped the other 2 guys off, and then Chris Jr. and I headed home. And on our way home, this is all reported. It's been investigated a lot. There's a power line halfway between the river and our home, which is 2 miles away. When I drove under that power line, taking these guys home, there were all of us in the truck. There was this big giant object hovering right above the power line. It was blacked out, but it had lights all down one side we were facing. And I actually wanted to get out and look up at it, and they were screaming, "No, don't stop." I actually slowed down about 10 and just looked at it out the window as we went under this power line. This thing's hovering 20 feet over the power line and huge. So anyhow, we dropped these guys off. Chris Jr. and I head back home. We get home, it's close to midnight now. My dad lives right beside us, next door, and he has a dog kennel. It's still there, although he's passed away. There's no more dogs there, but it's a really big kennel where he raised a lot of dogs. Sometimes he had 100, and he's traded them, loved them, sold them. And so that night, when Chris Jr. and I got home, there were about 15 hound dogs in that pen. Thoroughbred deer hunting, coon hunting dogs. So they got a very big mouth. They make a very loud, loud sound. They howled. Hound dogs love to howl. But that night, after Chris and I got home, he ran in the house, and I was extremely concerned about it. My wife wasn't home. She had the other 3 kids off with her mom for a week. And so Christopher's going through every room in the house methodically. He would run in the door, close the blinds, lock the door, and turn all the lights on and lock the bedroom door. He even locked the bathroom doors with no windows in them. He turned all the outside lights on around the house. And I'm in my study listening to the news, waiting to see if it's on. I mean, I'm flipping channels. Darn it, why is it not on the news? And we're just, our world is, we're in our own world that night, I guess you might say. So it was probably 15, 20 minutes by the time Christopher completed his thing. He runs into where I'm at, and I hear what I thought was a helicopter. Some of these Apaches and all fly, they sound different. They're quieter, sort of like a light flight helicopter. It's not like the old Hueys. You can, yeah, if you want to. So, I'll try to get my head back where I was. Chris Jr. and I are home. He just completed his mission of turning all the lights on, and I hear this noise go over. I thought it was a helicopter. Immediately, I could imagine a helicopter from Fort Bragg, because they're full of them. There are a lot of them there, and they were heading in the right direction. And it wasn't 5 minutes after that noise, all these hound dogs start howling, not howling. They start this bark that is, I'm afraid of what's there. I don't know what it is. It's strange to me. And so it was very nerve-wracking, and there's 15 of them doing this in the middle of the night, like midnight, just after. And so first thing I thought of is my dad has a 40-foot garage next to the dog kennel where his boats and fishing gear is. And I'm thinking, well, maybe somebody is rambling around out there and is going to break into his garage. So I told Chris Jr., I said, I'm going to go over and see who's out there. No, Dad, please don't go outside. Please don't go. So I said, son, somebody's maybe breaking in our shop. I've got to find out. So after he begged me for a little bit more, I just said, no, you can go with me or you can stay here. I'll be fine. I don't need a light. I've got Rosie, our dog, is right out the back door. She's a big 100-pound Chesapeake Bay. And so he decided to go with me. And when I opened the back door, Rosie looks up at me and she takes off towards the woods to where the dog kennel is, down in the woods behind the house, between ours, more like behind Dad's, but 100 yards back in the woods from where we are. So Rosie's going that way. I've got Christopher holding me by the back of the shirt. As I start out the door, Rosie runs out about 40 yards and stops, looks back at me and sees we're coming, and she goes on. So Christopher and I kind of snug in the dark, keeping ours, not making any noise, and using the dogs for our protection. We walk in there real quietly where Rosie was. And what perplexed me is all 15 of these hounds are now, they're looking out the back of the kennel into the forest. And so is Rosie. They're all pointing and barking every breath behind the kennel, not toward the garage. And immediately I went through everything. A thief wouldn't be coming in through the forest because he couldn't haul anything away. So this must not be a person. Must be an animal, maybe a bear, because the bear smells will scare a dog a lot of times. And so Christopher and I sat there and we hearing all this and seeing all these dogs in a frenzy, and we're all excited, and he's had enough. So I said, Christopher, I'm gonna send Rosie in the forest. Who's ever in there or whatever's in there, she'll push him out. And so we agreed to put her in. And I said, once I send her in, we got to run hard as we can back to our yard, out of the forest, and run way back to the back, about another 100 yards from where we are, to see if we can hide behind a tree. It's dark now, but I know every branch. I've lived 40 years there. I know where to go. So I take off running. Christopher's got me by the back of the shirt, And when I get to the end of the path, I got to make a left to go back to the back. Well, I pulled away from Junior. I thought I did. I thought he was still behind me, but undoubtedly he had all he could stand. So he turned right and he went back to the house. I turned left. I run back. I hear Rosie coming through the woods. She's coming, and she's barking like she's seeing whatever's in there. So I run hard as I can run, and I run up to this big oak tree at the very back of my property, and I'm running so hard I have to stop myself using the tree. And I'm trying to be quiet and not pant and somebody hear me, because here's the dog is coming. I'm in the right place. She's pushing and whatever's in there out toward me. So I run up to the tree and I stop myself and I look back to see if Junior's coming. I thought I'd pulled away and he was coming behind me. It was all very quick. So I'm holding to the tree. I'm panting. I look back and I'm, oh my God. And that's exactly how I did it. I looked back and I thought, oh my God. So I turned my back and I turned around not getting any closer behind me. I'm using the tree to get all the away as I can, because behind me is standing this little entity. I could have touched it. And I had a photo of the thing, a painting I did in 2009. Yeah. There you go. This little guy is standing 3 feet from me. That's strange.
I know.
There you go.
All right.
All right. So now I've got my hands against the tree, and I look back and here this guy's standing 3 to 4 feet away. So I turn, I put my back against the tree, and I just said, I surrender. You got me. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. I mean you no harm. And this is what I'm going through. I thought I was dead. I really thought I was dead. And when I'm saying this to this entity, the dog is still coming. And I hear this thunderous sound that said, you don't understand. I'm not here. We're not here to harm you. We're here to help you. And so about that time, here comes my dog. And as she's coming out of the forest, this thing just disappears right in front of me. Well, the dog runs on a quarter mile out of hearing. I heard her as I ran back to the house to see Christopher. I'm hearing my dog run on through the, on down away. So I don't know what she kept running, where this thing went. We know the tree died. The limbs and all fell out of it, and they tested, MUFON tested it on all and found this strange radiation to it. And
Tell people what MUFON is.
MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network, and how I found them was after all this event happened. My wife comes home, I tell her about it. Nobody wanted to believe us. Nobody. My family, immediately, I was born and raised a Baptist. I married a Pentecostal holiness girl from down around Lumberton, Fairmont. And they're very hardcore, strict Christians. And I'm playing with the devil. So all of a sudden, I've got people at my house with holy water. And they're sprinkling my yard. The minute I would leave here, they would come. So I got persecuted and ostracized by church people for a long time. And I still have a lot of, I know what I know, and I stand by what I know, and so be it. But that night, it's the last night I ever had another symptom of Crohn's disease. After 17 and a half years in a near-death experience, losing an $18 million annual revenue company, 15 to 18 million, because I was sick and I'm crying out for help. these balls of fire came, not UFOs, not aliens. I never saw flying saucers. There were balls of fire, just like the biblical stories of the fiery chariots. That's what I'm looking at. And it came because I'm crying out, Lord, help me. And this is how it all started. It started in 2010, undoubtedly. I mean, when I was 10. And then in 2007, after the second near death and being at the very bottom, crying out, it came. They came. They took my Crohn's disease away. And how do you tell people that are telling you you're playing with the devil? But yeah, I was praying to Jesus. I was praying to God or whoever's up there. But yet the devil came. So you see where I was and where I've been, and I still have these people that claim to know everything. And they want to tell me exactly how, what I'm dealing with. So that's for another story, but I don't know where we are in time. Okay. So that was basically the whole story condensed a bit of the river on 2007. So what happens is I don't report it. I don't report it for 10 months. Now it's in October now, and I'm at depression. Nobody wants to have anything to do with me because I'm all alone, right? Chris Jr. and I are in a world of our own, and the community basically turned on me, and it made me harder at this to prove it. And so I set out, it set me on a mission. And what we didn't realize is it kept coming back. The first week, here it comes again, when my wife comes home, and all the stuff we went through, 10 months into it, when I reported it, she had questions of her own too by that time. All the kids have experienced it by then, multiple times. I'd wake them up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 in the morning, and there's orbs hovering over the house. And when I say orbs, they're different types of orbs, different sizes of orbs. Some might be this big. And when it appears, it'll look like a firefly, but it can grow this big very quick. So it might come on as a little lightning bug looking thing, but ultra bright, and then all of a sudden it jumps out like this and goes back, and they'll fly undulating. But then there's orbs in the sky. I have videos of those as well. These are a different type of orb. They're more of what the ancients would have called the wheel within the wheel, because these things are always spinning, and they have a hole, a lot of times a triangular hole right in the end of them. I have a couple of videos to share that with you. But it's whatever, or we can, so, well, let's think. We're talking about orbs here. What I'm getting at is just orbs. We're contemplating sharing some of these photos right now. I have a little extra time here, so we're trying to figure out what to do. But these orbs are twofold, in that there are a lot of orbs that I take that appear that have people in them and have animals in them and have in fact, I believe all of them have life in them, all of them. And I have some very convincing orb photos of visible orbs, not something you take with a camera and you get these little balls of light. I'm talking about orbs that fly up and you see them with your eyes, and we take pictures of them that way. have witnesses to doing that as well. So if I had to say the first stage of this thing, for 5 years after that, this MUFON came. Well, I'm gonna back up. I reported it in October, 10 months later. Within a week, I get a phone call from MUFON. They want to come investigate. And I got cold feet. I thought, if I do this, I may be divorced. My wife doesn't want me talking about this. I'm scaring the children. The community's telling me I have to leave it alone. So I thought, if I invite them here, I'm going to be divorced. So I agonized 2 more weeks over that. And then I told them, no, they couldn't come. And then it comes January, a year later, they call me and say, we're closing your case. I said, no, I need to talk about this. I'm making that decision now. If I lose my family, I've got to talk to somebody about this. So that's when MUFON came. They came in January of 2008, and they brought everybody they had from, they brought the state director, the national director, they brought people from Maryland. They had all these investigators converge. And within 4 or 5 months, they did a Discovery Channel show called UFOs Over Earth. And that's when I got very upset with MUFON, because they basically did a hack job between them and the Discovery Channel. They made me look like I was lying. They tried to debunk it, which is what they were doing back then. They never counted on it coming back. And that's where they made a mistake, because it came back and it's still coming back, and I'm still filming it, and I'm here to stay. They thought I was going to go away, but it didn't happen. So we're 8 o'clock. Let's look at some of these slides here, and I can find some time. This is the entity. I want you to pay. Okay. If you look at this being here, it has a triangle on its chest. And I drew it like that because that's exactly what I was looking at. I was seeing this glowing entity with a dark triangle underneath this glow. And one of the first things that after I made this report in 08 with MUFON, and the Discovery Channel made it public. They did their show by June or July of 2008. They were playing this show. And that's when I call the 5 years of darkness happened, because now here's my children. I've got a daughter that's 10 years old. Then she's teaching music for NYU right now at 23. But at 10 years old, her just a baby, she never doubted her father. And when she would go to school, the teachers and students would call them out in front of the class, made fun of their father. So it made a problem for my children, because they were seeing this stuff and experiencing it too. And what it did is actually pulled us all together as a very tight-knit group. That's one of the greatest things that happened. We became ostracized and became a closer family. But so I didn't talk about it for 5 whole years, hardly at all, only within our family. I was outside every night looking for it and wishing I could film it so I could share it with people and prove, I had this, you got to prove it. You got to prove it. And this is where I've been. And nothing. Every time I'd see it, it would disappear before I could get my camera out. I have one instance that there's a story about where I walk outside and there's this huge golden cross over top of my house. Looks like a cross, gold, rays shooting out of a diamond looking shape. And I take a brand new digital camera brand new one. And I mean, I had just bought a $400 camera and took one, when I went to take one photo, it said memory card error. And from that point on, every photo that camera takes, even with a different card, are melted. The pictures look very melted. And there's a slide in here that shows that. So for 5 years, it was people calling, wanting me to talk. I wouldn't talk. I was mad at the world. I was mad at how the Discovery show went. I was angry at how the people treated my children at school and family and grandparents even. And so I became reclusive, and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I wanted to hide from it, and I wanted to, go shout in the woods and cry because I subjected my children to this. And so I'm feeling all this, but when they took me in 2007, they put these images in my head, and the images were of destruction and of just, like you hear from a lot of folks, the end of the world type stuff, fires and explosions, and I saw all this stuff, and I never wanted to talk about it, and I tried to keep it hidden, but I felt I should share this with the world. I have to share this, and they kept telling me over and over, you've got to tell the world what you know. You got to tell them who we are and what you know. And I kept running from it and running from it and running from it. They would call, can you speak at this event? No, ma'am, I don't want to talk. I'm not going to talk about this anymore. So here comes Easter of 2012. And this is when the whole thing changed for me. And this is when it all changed in a huge way. And it's gonna end up on probably tens of millions of people seeing and hearing about this through television. So on Easter of 2012, you remember all that hype in 2012 about the world was going to come to an end. It was the Mayan prophecy. So there's a lot of hype going on. And I'm still in my own little world. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be alone. And so here comes Easter. I'm laying in the bed. My wife, our three boys are in school then, or at home, and they have all their friends over playing video games. And there's probably 15 kids there, young boys. We always had a whole lot of children at our house. So my daughter, she's the baby. Mom worried about all them boys around. So she's sleeping with her in her bedroom, which is in the front part of the house. So at 3 a.m, I'm asleep, laying dead asleep in the bed. And why I know it was 3, because when I heard this, I looked over at my clock and it was setting dead on 3, and it scared me really bad. I heard this loud, thunderous voice say, "Arise." And it was like so deep and so loud that it shocked me out of my sleep to where I jumped up in the bed and I looked around and said, "Who's in here?" I heard that. And whatever way they have with us, they can make us do things knowingly. We don't know how, but long story short, I got up and I got dressed and I walked out the back door of my house, and I'm following these 3 entities that called on me that night. They were in my room, and I saw them at the foot of my bed, barely, but they're like, "Get dressed and come with me." So I walk out the back door, and I walk out toward the dog kennels, and I'm following these 3 figures, which I couldn't see their faces very well. And we get near to where Rosie and all the dogs were Chris Jr. and I, the same spot. that's a magical spot because I'll show you photos later on from that same area of an entity in the daytime, right? Broad daylight. So I follow these beings out to the kennel area, and this being hands me this object. I don't know what it is, and he hands it to me like so. And all I'm seeing is I have something that feels like a pack of hamburger or sausage. It's that size of shape. It's about a foot long, and it feels like fur, and it feels like it's alive, but I don't detect a dog or heads or legs. I was scared of it, so I drop it. And I heard this voice say, no, you pick it up. You must keep this. So I reached down to pick this thing up, and when I do, all of a sudden, they're gone. I don't see them anymore. And this blast of air hits me and blows me so hard back. It's like it just caught me off guard. And I see the trees in front of me disappear. And out of there comes a bull. Now, of all things, a bull runs me over, and it's translucent. I could see it as it went over, but I'm thinking it's real. It was just so quick. I hit flat on my back. I rolled on my stomach and pushed myself up to run. And when I did, there's no more cow here or bull. There is a lady there, a woman. Yes. And this famous artist in New York, Doug All, painted this painting. Yeah, right here. All right, you can see the bull, you can see the tree in the background, and I'll get to that tree here in a second. So this is when all the strange events started, and this is when I started documenting everything. When she came at me as a bull, ran me over, scared me to death, and when I turned to roll over from my back, now I'm facing this way, I'm trying to get up the run, and when it all happened so fast. There's no more cow or bull. There's this woman, and she's glowing bluish white, and the ground around her is lit up. She's 3 feet off the ground and about 6 feet from me. And I'm on my knees, and I'm looking up at her, and she looks down at me, and she says, you know why I'm here. You must tell what you know. This is your burden. You must bear. And that's what I'll never forget. She told me that. And I knew what she was talking about because I had been internally in agony over telling this story. And I wanted to, but I got too much poison from everybody back. Just uninformed people. They're going to say, you didn't see anything. Well, were you there? No, you won't. But still, it's, you don't want to be it. Well, I was it. And when she said, you know why I'm here? You must tell your story, and I will protect you, and I will be with you throughout this whole journey, and I'll help you tell this story. And so I'm hearing all this, and she tells me some other things. She tells me about things that are to come, and that she would notify me when the time was right. She told me then, and I put it in writing for generals at the U.S. Pentagon. I had a request from somebody, I can't say who, that asked me that 2 generals wanted to know what her message was. So it had ended up, I did that. But one of the things she told me was that the change was coming. There was going to be a change, and that there would be a new knowledge, complete new knowledge for all of humanity, that we were going to awaken to the apocalypse. This is the revealing, the apocalypse. What we read about in the Bible is happening now. And she said that it's being made, it's being scripted that people in power, some very dark people in power, were trying to bring about the biblical story. They want it to happen. They want to bring back all that and about the end of the world. And she says we can change that. And she said that there was going to be a change, that 2,000 years ago, a paternal order of men disgraced the woman and took the woman from the Trinity. It took it from us and suppressed the woman. But the feminine energy was going to rise, and that would bring about peace to the world, that the women were going to rise in power and that peace would come. But there would be trouble between now and then. And I stopped short of telling that kind of stuff. So we still got time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now this is 2012, Easter weekend. That week, like Monday or Tuesday, it was only just a few days later, I get a phone call from MUFON. Hadn't heard from them in months. And they said, can you come to Asheville and do a talk? I know it's short notice, but we have somebody that wants to meet you. And she's a religious scholar, went to Berkeley for 12 years, and now she's at UNCW. She's head of the religious department, and she's studying angels. So when I reported this to MUFON in 2008, I reported these little beings as angelic beings, children. They're children, or like baby angels. That's what I told them. And so that got the attention of this person. She'd heard about it. And she had put in a request for me to go to meet her weeks before the lady came. And if the lady hadn't come, I would have never gone to talk in that show. I can promise you that. So this is the next part of the whole story, where this starts from here. The lady's name is Dr. Diana Pasulka. She, within 2 weeks, I'm in Asheville, and I'm trying to tell this story. And I didn't want to talk about the river event because I had just had the most amazing experience with this beautiful angelic woman. And I wanted to talk about that. So I started getting heckled in the audience by quite a few people. We want to hear the river. And it kind of upset me. And I don't know what happened or how it happened, but they're all aware of this. I just stopped talking, and all of a sudden words started coming out of my mouth, and I wasn't in control of them. I just right out front said, this is important. If you want to know how important it is, watch if this doesn't happen. If this happens, it should tell you to pay attention. So I said there's going to be an earthquake on Baja, California of a 7.8 magnitude on September the 23rd of 2012. It just come out of my mouth just like that. Well, on September the 23rd of 2012, that year, that day, to the very magnitude, it happened. Well, that got a lot of attention of a lot of people, a lot of scientists, a lot of professors, and they recorded that. And so there's a whole new chapter started from her forward, and we'll get into that in a second. So we're getting close to a break here. It's more hard for me to just openly tell this. I like to be interviewed a lot better, but I'm doing my best.
You're doing great.
There's a lot of exciting things happening, like a television show possibly. It's been an 8-year ordeal, and if it goes, it'll be as big a deal as there is in this. I mean, it'll reach a lot of people, tens of millions, I'm told. And it will be based on my life story and my family. And Dr. Pasulka in her book, American Cosmic. And I would suggest everybody read her book. And she wrote that. She and I started a manuscript together called Seraphine, and we kind of laid it aside, and we've never finished it. And if you read her book, you'll hear characters in it about aerospace people that takes her out to the desert to a crash site and allows her to hold and handle material. Well, I introduced her to these people, and that was old news for me. So she was chosen to let this secret out of the bag. And in her book, she does. It's a must read. Yeah. So I think
We'll just see everybody back in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. So I'm going
Okay, yeah.
One of the instruction buttons that's volume up and down.
Okay. So I'll let you go ahead and start talking, and then we'll find the.
Okay, so we're
welcome,
back.
welcome back.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're back from our break. We were talking about the mother or the lady, I'll call her, either or. I'm not speaking of the Virgin Mary. I'm not a Catholic. I never was trained in that, so I don't know her as that. I would know her as the lady. And there's a lot of people that believe it's the same lady as Our Lady of Fatima. That the miracle of the sun we know came with some shiny disc. They called it the miracle of the sun, but it was really there's a lot of details that are different when you read the actual account, and you have the inside knowledge that some of these PhDs I study with. But so we're going to share a couple of orbs photos here, or a few, maybe some video. I hope it shows up like it should, where you can get some detail out of it.
Okay, so
All right, so now this is Dr. Pasulka. Okay, let's start right here.
okay.
This lady is the lady that I was meant to meet. In other words, I met her 2 weeks after the lady came on Easter. She was trying to meet me 2 weeks ahead of that, 3-4 weeks. She was asking MUFON to introduce us, and I would have never agreed to it unless this lady hadn't come and energized me and said, get out and tell your story, we're going to help you. Mm-hmm. So here's the tree. This is a very important story, and it ties into a lot of things. This happened on October the 13th of that same year, 2012. So remember, for 5 years, I didn't talk about it. Well, all of a sudden, 2012 comes, and it takes off like a rocket. Everything does. So I meet Dr. Pasulka May, the first weekend of May. It was 2 weeks after Easter. Then I didn't hear from her or see her or anything, didn't know if I'd ever would again until June. I get a call from MUFON Wilmington. They're having a meeting and then wanted me to come. They said, we don't want you to talk, we just want you to come. Dr. Pasulka wants to meet you again. So I live an hour and a half away. I drove down to Wilmington and took a couple of my boys, and we all went to the meeting, went out to eat that evening, and ended up on the beach that night with quite a group from that meeting. And so Diana and I got to spend a good hour or two together out kind of away from the group, just chatting, watching the sky. And I think she, after that, she knew what she needed to know. She had been studying religious studies all her life, and very connected to the Pope himself, all the way to the Vatican. And you'll study that in that book where she was allowed into the archives, the secret archives, and they did it in my honor. They actually placed a picture of me with the Pope's picture in the archives, and he was there. He gave them the tour. He actually sent me some photos through Diana of these orbs because I'd started getting sick with rheumatoid. Hands were killing me bad, just all of a sudden. And other things, my knees and my feet and all were killing me. It just all of a sudden it happened. And they sent me back these photos from the Vatican. The Pope said that I should be very careful, that they don't mean to harm me, that they're angelic beings, and that the same thing that happened to St. Francis of Assisi, he got the stigmata from orbs getting too close. Well, that's what's happened with me. I've had it pretty severe for the last 6 years. I'm better now. But so this is in this fall, somewhere around October the 10th or 9th. Diana calls me, and she lives in Wilmington. She says, "Chris, I'm consulting on a television program, a movie set. I'm consulting in Wilmington for the movie The Conjuring. These guys are writing this, producing the movie. They did it in Wilmington, and they want to meet you." I said, "Diana, it would take a miracle. It would take a sign from the lady that it's her will before I would agree to be on any television show again because of what happened in the first 5 years with the Discovery Show." So she says, "Okay, let me know what you're going to do." So the whole week goes along, and she's called, "Have you got a sign yet?" I said, "No sign. These guys really want to meet you. I've told them all about you. They're dying to meet you. They're going back to California Friday." I said, "I'm sorry, I haven't got a sign." And I meant it. And so on Thursday night that week, the 12th, I was a smoker then. This is when I quit. My wife and I were watching TV in my study. It's about 9 o'clock. It was right at 9. I paused the TV. I said, "I'm going to go out and smoke." So I stood up, walked out the back door, cement patio. It's been raining for 2 days. Ground was wet. We have a video of this, and you can see the grass is wet when people were driving up. So I'm standing there alone a minute. The wife hasn't come out yet. And I look way back in a London fog type day, night, evening. It was 9 o'clock. It was just one of those dreary days. Grass is wet, and I see sparks come off the side of this tree, and they went out and went different directions. I thought, that's strange. What was that? And all of a sudden, my wife opens the door, and she sees it through the back patio. The back door has glass, so as she's approaching the door, she sees it do it again. When she opened the door, she said, "What in the world is going on with that tree?" I said, "I have no idea." And it's almost 100 yards away, out in the dark back corner of the property. And within seconds, it just erupted into flames and was shooting fire 10 feet up top of that tree. And it freaked everybody out. We went and got a hose. I have a garden out there, so I had a hose bib out, way out. And we drug a hose out and put it up inside the tree, put it out. And at 9 o'clock, we drenched it. And by 12 o'clock that night, it lit itself on fire again. We put it out with a hose pipe. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, it lit itself on fire the third time. And the whole family was beside ourselves by then. My mom and dad lived next door. They were freaked out by this time. So everybody in the community is knowing something's happening at my house. So I picked the phone up as my son was filming this. you can hear me speak in the background. Well, I'm on the phone dialing Dr. Pasulka saying, I got your sign tonight. I'll see you in the morning. So Friday morning, my wife and I drove to Wilmington, and we met with the writers who are working on this show still to this day. And it's a long-term project. All the bigger projects take 7-8 years to create, and that's where we are. And so that's the story of the tree. That's how significant a sign it really got Hollywood's and drug them into it just as well. They're very spiritual people, part of the Christian Writers Guild. So that grabbed their attention right away. And it has a lot of people. If you notice the tree on the inside, you'll see clothing and bags of photos and stuff. Well, it got to be so famous. In the right photo, you see smoke wrapped around and around that tree. Well, that's a living elemental, a being, an intelligent entity. You can see faces, you can see the being hanging out there, but it was always around that tree, and it would fly by us. I've got photos, and a lot of people saw it. You'll see other photos of it with this fog that would appear around that tree. But people come and brought clothing, and there were healings that happened. I have a video, maybe on here, of an orb appearing during, let's see if she has that.
These are the.
Yeah, these are the photos of, by the way, this guy, and this is Tom DeLonge, if you ever heard of Tom DeLonge, the rock and roll star, and Lou Elizondo, top left in the middle. And the guy on the far right standing with me is Dr. Hal Puthoff. He's one of the most famous scientists in the U.S. government. I mean, he's a genius. But they're all good friends of mine, and I've had some interaction with these groups. This is Dr. John Alexander. He is head of the non-lethal weapons division for the U.S. military. He's been a paranormal investigator for 50 years. One of the probably the main guy for, or has been for the government, studying the paranormal for the military for all of these years. And that night he came to my house, which was it was 2014, I think. John came, and he and his wife Victoria and my daughter Emily and I went down to the river. And John tells his story on a TV interview we did this week with Alatra TV. He tells it on Jeffrey Mishlove. He wrote a book called Reality Denied, things that shouldn't happen but that does. So what happened was he arranged to come with his wife, stayed a couple of days at the Hope Mills at the local hotel, but he was at our house all day. And on Saturday night, we go out to the river. I take him down to the same place. We walk to the river, we walk back up to the gate, and we're standing there at the gate, and it's now dark. And you'll hear him tell this story, to where I'm keenly aware of everything around me. Sounds, insects, very important nature sounds, because at that moment, while we were all together, 4 of us, and we're at the gate. I'm leaning against the driver's side door. John's leaning against the front wheel driver's side. My daughter's sitting in the back seat with the door open, and we're looking at the sky to the south. And I'm telling John about the whole incident, the river, and all of a sudden I heard all the nature just stop. Nobody else heard it, but I noticed it very quick. Every bug just went silent. Then all of a sudden, all my hair stood up, and I looked straight at John. I said, John, I think they're here right now. And when I said that, within 10 seconds, it appeared. It didn't fly over. It didn't. It was what it was. It appeared, a big orb above us, and it just took off and flew away to the south. And he tells that story. He's a government scientist with Los Alamos National Laboratories. And there's more than one of these government guys that have witnessed this stuff with me. All right, here's a collage of my activities with different scientists in different places. Of course, you see NASA all over this, and they were if you look in the right side, there's an older guy with gray hair with a red shirt holding my daughter. He is Dr. Hal Mcguire. He was with NASA 59 years. That book there, he dedicated it to my family and I. He's in the very bottom middle. You see him with my little girl when she was 10 years old. So he was the first one to knock on the door after 2007. And he died last Thanksgiving. On the way, he was going to come visit us and for Thanksgiving, and fell at 80 years old, and he never recovered. But we loved him, and he was an astronomer. He has stuff on the moon that he designed. He's an engineer, the world's authority on tektites. Just a lot of contact with scientists from the aerospace community. There's a napkin there with Camp David on it, and that was a real napkin from Camp David from the dinner table, and that's about all I can say there. But there's a reason I have it. Well, this guy here, Dr. Bob Mcguire, you see me with my hand around him. He is a scientist from Virginia Tech. He just retired, and he moved back to Alabama at Auburn. He's a professor there now, but like an adjunct professor. He wrote me at Thanksgiving of last year, and probably I'll have to circle back to this, because last year at Easter I had an experience that I was going to tell about. This experience was an orb came out of the sky on Easter of 2019. And it'll be like some of the videos you see, the same kind of orb. Here it comes. When I walk out the door, it comes down, gets excited when it sees me like a child. When I walk out, here it comes, and it's blinking and it's spiraling, and then it comes down and it lands or hovers over my pond, 25 feet from me. And I recorded it for 18 minutes with my cell phone, hovering 25 feet. And it told me, it said, get out and tell your story now. Now's the time. This was Easter of 2019. It said, no matter what, tell your story. And that posed a big problem for me, because I'd signed a non-disclosure or an option agreement with Hollywood. So I'm not allowed to talk about it. I hadn't for 8 years. But when this entity came and said, tell your story now, I broke all protocols, and I just went and started talking. And I started doing interviews. I did 10 interviews last year with Richard Dolan and Jimmy Church and different big stations, and flew out to San Francisco and did one. This is a second in-person interview I've done in 8 years, really. I didn't talk for 8 years until Easter of last year. And that's when the urgency came. So how Dr. Mcguire winds up in there is I get this message, urgent to tell it. There's trouble on the way. And I stopped short of talking about all that because it's just negative. But anyhow, I had to tell the story. I've got to tell it. So I get on the phone and I start calling people. I want to talk. I'm ready to talk. And then this Mr. McGuire calls me, writes me, Thanksgiving. What I told was, what the entity told me at Easter was, is the revealing is now. It's going to start in 2020, and we're going to help you tell the world. We're going to help you with witness, with video, and with audio. And I'm like, okay. So I tell all my friends, government friends, a lot of people want to know all the time what information I'm getting. So I said, it's going to be revealing 2020. It's going to be, the government's going to tell it. The world's going to come to terms knowing that we're not alone. And it's going to start 2020. Then there's trouble coming. And so Dr. McGuire writes me at Easter, and he says, Chris, I'm Dr. McGuire. I'm the chief scientist for the Hume Center for National Technology. He trains college students to work for the government in technology, secret stuff. So here I'm getting a guy calling me at Thanksgiving 3 months later saying, we want to come to your house and put a big package of cameras in your yard. Now, I was just told by the angel that we're going to help you with photo, video, and witness. So I'm like, okay, this is getting real now. This is getting real. So I'm like, I have to let you know. I didn't jump too quick. So I string him out and I tell him, it's Christmas, it's Thanksgiving, we got all this going on. I said, wait till first of the year. And then I had promised I'd be in San Francisco in January. So I told Bob, after I come back from San Francisco, you can come to the house. So he does. He comes in, I want to say it was early January, late January, first week of February, because we were in San Francisco. Anyhow, Bob comes, he and his beautiful wife, Sharon. On a Friday, he gets there, Friday evening, it's raining. So we go out to eat and he gets a hotel. Saturday, he gets up, he hangs out with me all day. The whole family's there. We have a grand time, raining all day. Saturday night, rain. So we just stayed inside talking. Sunday, it starts clearing up. Sunday night, we go out to eat and we get back to the house. It's about 9 and 9:30. He's like, can we go out and look at the sky? I said, sure. So I already know what he's wanting. He's wanting to bring cameras, and I'm already thinking, this angel told me we're going to help you with cameras and with audio and video. It's just part of that. And so when we walk outside, I look up at the heavens and I ask them, and I know these entities to me are the angels. Because they hear what we think and they influence our lives. They're not coming from Mars or Venus or somewhere. They're here. They're always here, and they're all around us, and they listen to us. So I walk out with him standing beside me and my youngest boy, and I look up at the sky. I said, is this the person that I'm supposed to allow to use a camera in my yard? Is this part of what you told me? And when I said that, immediately the sky became alive. Orbs started appearing. We have it on video with Bob looking at them, and they begin to appear around us, over my head, 10 feet up, in the trees, like fireflies. And we got some big as a UPS truck flying above us, and these little ones flashing around us. And he tells a story. He's come public with it. And so this is a heavy hitter, and he's got a podcast he does on the Richard Dolan site on Sundays now. So it's a good place to hang out. So I think we're going to move to an orb here. Okay, go back to the first one. There's some good pictures in this first. Is this video?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try this one. We'll see which video this is here. All right, now what you're seeing is this video is taken with my iPhone, And it's been stabilized by a friend of mine in San Diego by the name of Joel Dodd. And you can see me zoom in and zoom out. He's got it in slow motion right now. But I zoom in and zoom out to try to get the camera to focus because it's not focusing at night very well. But now it's beginning to focus. And you can see the hole that ends up in the center of this thing. And this is done on slow motion, stabilized. But I don't know if I have the other video. It usually goes faster than that. Yeah. That was about 300 feet from me going right over my head. And it's about the size of an ice cream truck or a UPS truck. Here's another one. That may be the same one. That is the same one. Yeah, let's see how this turns out in a second. You hear my literally over my phone, about 300-400 feet up. And when I walked out the door, 3 of them were here. This is the third, the closest one. Thank you. Yeah, this is. There's always threes. Something to do with the Trinity. They're always coming in threes. These are photos of orbs. And if you look, you can see what appears to be different beings or people or animals in some of these things. I took all those are photos of a ball of light about the size of a bowling ball, sometimes 10 to 20 feet away. And, here's another one. There's two. The orb on the left, you can see the tree leaves behind it. And what's happened is the lighting has been turned down, but that was a visible orb. I saw it from 100 yards coming. Flew right over my head, 10 feet away, and I have the original photo of that. And then this one, the light has been turned back so you can see what's inside of it. The one on the right has pretty obvious faces in it. There's another one, 2 of them, both orbs with beings or critters of some sort watching. They're watching me as I'm watching them. Yeah, it looks like a smiley face. This is orb over the pond. It should be. There you go. I took this. These are, nobody can debunk these, period. They've been processed by government. People have looked at them, and there's no getting around it. It's real. And I have a lot of those, a lot of videos. This is my family. And sad thing is, it's the day my father died 7 years ago, December 3rd. But that's Chris Jr. on the far left. He was 30 years old now with a new baby boy and a new home, and he's doing fabulous. His sister, Emily, she was 10, now she's like 23 and teaching for NYU. And then my other boys, Ryan and Jeremy, they're very successful working with universities or in insurance. Very proud of my children. This is my little place. We lived out on a 3,200 square foot home with the burning tree 5-bedroom house, and all my kids have gone now, moved out. And this little place, we've had it in the family 35 years. It's a 15-acre tract, and nobody was living in the cabin. So my wife and I downsized. We got rid of our big house and moved into a little cabin, and we absolutely love it. You got to get in a gate to come in there. So my other house, I had as many as 20 and 30 people sleeping in my yard at times. They come camp out in the yard, wanting to see something. So I'm kind of private here.
So can you tell us more about, I think a lot of people want to know what the lady wants to tell people who are on the call tonight, and or the Zoom meeting. Most people here have a pretty high understanding that there is something happening right now.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And so you're probably not going to shock people of things that you say. So, you know, I'm hearing them. Yeah. Just tell us what she said. We can take it. So, again, I want to emphasize. I'm sitting over here, y'all, but I want to emphasize to use your own discernment. If something doesn't feel right to you, then that's not your truth. That's okay. Just take nuggets of what might be helpful to you in your life. That's why we're here tonight.
So the biggest thing, we got to start with a movement to change the destiny of this planet. I really believe that. And it's been taught to us for many years, thousands of years. Jesus taught it. A lot of the spiritual teachers taught it. It's just, what did Jesus say? And I'm going to stop short of trying to sell religion, because I don't. I'm not into church anymore like I was. I was a deacon in the Pentecostal church, and then I found something on my own that I don't know how to say it, but I've been awakened. And I've been awakened to the fact that there are a host of beings above us. They live in the air. I can prove it with witnesses and with equipment, videos, photo, that they're there. They're always in the clouds. They're in the biblical text. If you pull the Bible out and read Mark 14 or any of these some of these texts, talks about clouds of heaven. And it says, Jesus said, when I come back, I'm coming the way I left, and that's in or on the clouds of heaven. Well, one thing we learned with this intense study, I've had 8, 9 years, 10 years of intense study in the religious text, trying to find, because I could go all over the world and say, what was it I saw, this light that came out and took my Crohn's away? And everybody says, oh, it was a Pleiadian. He came down from the Pleiades and he did this and did that. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not what happened. I was praying, balls of fire come out of the sky, and they took my disease away and left me with a heck of a mess. You know, I've got what I was asking for, but now I've got a problem. Am I going to lose my family? Are my children going to be here for me, or what do I do? So it's well. It is.
We're running out of time.
Okay. So to get around to, so you understand the significance of this thing, I'm not selling aliens. I'm telling you from my own experience that I was in the bottom of my life, financially and physically, and I'm crying out for help. I can tell you in 13, almost 14 years, I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people write me all the time, because I've been on TV and all over. And I get a lot of people, and I always let them talk. I want to hear what their experiences are. I'd rather hear everybody else. And I always ask them this. They want to know. I get 80-year-old ladies call me. I can't talk about this nowhere, but I feel like you can listen. So I get a lot of that. And they always tell me, all of them would tell me that it started when they were at the bottom of their life. You can ask that question, when you saw your UFO, what was your life? Did your mama die? Did your daddy die? Did your children leave you or die? Did your wife leave you? Did you lose your job and you're in depression? It always starts that way. And I have the documented proof through all these people calling me, and it's just data for people to listen to put together to use. So I'm saying that because I found a spiritual world of beings that are protecting us, and the lady is what changed everything for me. She taught me that I believe that she's always, in fact, I believe the lady is probably the third part of the Trinity, the Mother, the Holy Spirit, of something of that order. And that's what I feel inside. And she, I think that an old paternal society took the woman out of the woman away and defamed her and still persecute the women to this day. You know, it's crazy, but all that's changing. We're moving out of that old paternal world into a maternal world, into a feminine energy that's going to bring peace to the land. And this is what she told me. She told me that the apocalypse was here and it's happening now. It's coming, and it's going to be trouble ahead. I stopped short of saying about the trouble stuff because I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to predict things because, you know, I just don't want to be that guy. But I can tell you that the Mother changed my life. She set me on the right road to telling this story to a big mass of people, tens of millions, if this deal works. And it could only happen by her. All the data I have only came after she came. You will not believe how much photos and video stuff and witnesses have been with me, seen this. A lot of witnesses here in Raleigh. People have seen things with me. Groups of 20 when things appear and they see it. So
this is probably going to be a question in the chat room, so I'll just ask it now. So what would you suggest for people to prepare, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually? You know, what kind of preparedness will help us to get through the next?
I think we have to awaken. It's like this. And I want to be, Lord, forgive me. I don't want to boast at all, because you can't in this. You have to be humble. Humble yourself unto the creators. I think these entities created us, to tell you the truth. I think they had a hand in it. I know they're up there all the time, and I've got enough data. If I could just share it all, we've got to awaken everyone. When you awaken to and you know it's true, you'll start experiencing it. As I've had this dozens of times, people call me, oh my God, you came to my house and then we saw a UFO last night, or one was hovering over my driveway last night. And it happens like that. And I've asked people from friends with NASA, why is it that when I go to certain places and I meet these people, they start having experiences? And he says, Chris, it's like a truth switch. You're awakening people. You're waking them up. Once you awaken somebody and they know in their heart that it's real, then a person begins to awaken to a truth that maybe, just maybe, we can all leave from here, ascend maybe into a world of peace without having to go through all the negative stuff. And we're in the middle of the negative right now in the biggest way. and it's not going to lighten up for a year. I don't think. Bad as I hate to say that. And I'll leave that part at that. But I really enjoy being here, and I think we're going to take some
Five more
answers.
minutes if you want.
Yeah, so we got.
Yeah. Over here. So, okay, hey folks, we can go ahead and start the chat. Let me open that for everybody. All right, if y'all have some questions for Chris, you're welcome to go ahead and start typing things in. Let's make sure it's working properly.
Susan's going to help me read. I don't see very well.
Yes, okay. If you have one message for us, what would it be from Lori?
Oh, that to open your heart to when I don't know how I can get you to know the truth as I do. Seeing is believing, experiencing it firsthand is what awakens a person. But if you can just go out to the sky and look up at night and be honest and know that they're real, call on them for help, because this is what they do. They help us when we ask them to help us. If we don't ask them to help us, they won't. And I learned this through a lot of study. So many nights of me going out and staring at the sky, praying, why did you come? Why don't you come back? Why did you come and upset my life for like you did? I never got answers until the lady came. And after that, I saw life in a different way. I quit deer hunting. I quit hunting of any kind. I quit hurting bugs. I can't. If it runs from me, it's afraid, and I don't want to harm it anymore. It's just, I don't know what that one message would be. It's just a wonderful thing to know the angels. I know them, and they know me, and they come to visit, and they come in prayer. When I pray, that's when they come. Not every time, but there's a lot of times I walk outside and I just say a prayer to the mother, and if it be your will, I always ask her permission. If it be your will, send your angels to protect my family and myself. And when I say things like that, that's when the sky starts lightening up. I mean, orbs appearing, big ones, some small, and flying by. And that's been witnessed by a lot of people.
So it sounds like possibly just to develop a relationship with your angels and the entities, have and set the intention and actually have conversations with them and open up to them.
And when you have that kind of relationship, you don't worry about all the old stuff. I don't worry about it anymore. I'm awakened to, if they come and they take me away, so what? I mean, we're just in a video game anyhow. I think we're in an illusion, honestly. What did Jesus say? If you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could do everything he could do. What was he saying there? I mean, are we blind or something? So honestly, I think that these orbs with people in them is the eternal world. When you die, that's where you go. When I had a near death at 10, I was in an orb, in a bubble. I couldn't see it, but I was inside of something floating. So maybe we're being watched by our loved ones in the eternal place while we're going through this video game or this world and this illusion we're living in. It's a nasty place, Earth. People kill one another, animals kill each other, eat each other. It's a place of suffering. It's not the greatest place to be. If I had a choice to go to different worlds, it wouldn't be this one necessarily. So
from Catherine, does the country have to go to the bottom for us to look up and to become aware? I think you've answered that.
Yeah, and it's not the country, it's the world. We're looking at everybody, and it's got to start with one or a few. But we just got to know that it makes a big difference to know we're dealing with aliens or we're dealing with something that cares for us, angels. It's a total different interaction. I've never met an alien, so I don't call them that. I don't even call them extraterrestrials. I think we're the alien. We're the ant in the ant farm. They're watching us. What else we got?
Does the lady have any suggestions to help us move through this troubled period, which you've already talked about?
Yeah.
That was, and so Mary asked the name of the must-read book by the UNCW professor.
It's called American Cosmic Technology, Religion and Technology. And she's a Berkeley professor. She's stationed she's living now in Wilmington as head of the religion department.
So again,
Very
it's
smart
American
Cosmic Religion and
Right.
Technology. She tells a very amazing story about meeting some people in the aerospace industry. I introduced her to. They took her out into a field in New Mexico to where something crashed in the 40s. And she got to hold a piece of this stuff, and she was allowed to tell it to the world. I've been holding this in for many years, and it's like some of the stuff Tom's got DeLong. I gave it to him. So I've had my hands on this metal.
Well, I'm glad you're able to speak your truth now. We're happy you're here.
Couldn't for years.
Well, we're happy to support you.
Thank you.
Okay, so from Jason, do you know anything you can share about documentaries or movies that will be made out of these experiences we've had? And indeed, many have had many more, will still have. So documentaries, so you've already been interviewed a lot and done lots of shows. What I know is if you just Google Chris Bledsoe's name, you're going to find a lot of stuff to watch and listen to.
Yeah, I just did. I was in LA out in January. I flew out, my wife and I, for 10 days, and we did a documentary there. It's not come out yet. I don't know when it's coming out, but it's going to be a rather big one. But I actually was asked out there and did this show out there, and I got a call yesterday. Ancient Aliens are wanting to come to town and film Dr. Pasulka and I, and so that's on the early stages. And then we have this very big deal we're working on, and it's not a documentary. It would be either a scripted series, something like Stranger Things, but based on a true story with real actors, famous actors and actresses. So we'll know that in a couple of weeks. Should.
We could have a little contest. Guess which actor is going to play him?
So we hope it all works. It's been an 8-year in progress thing, and it was going to kick off in January, February, and COVID hit, and it shut everything down. So now they're just now opening back up on the West Coast to do these shows. So hopefully next year this time it'll be out, maybe.
Stay tuned. So Laurie says, thank you. Open your heart, go outside and look to the sky and ask for help. They will help you, but we will need to ask. So
yeah, you have to ask, and ask the lady. If it be her will, give her permission. Give her permission, because these angels are under her control. She controls it all. And there's another story I was made aware of by a friend in the CIA. He said, are you aware of the Hess story or the Mojave Incident? I said, never heard of it. But in the 90s, this couple, Ron Felber wrote the book called the Mojave Incident. The Hesses were driving along through the desert and couldn't find a hotel, so they pulled over side in the Mojave Desert area in a pickup truck to camp. Husband's lighting a fire out by the tailgate, wife's getting the camper ready, and he sees a light, an orb, way off in the distance, a mile away. he don't say anything because when he sees it, it shoots behind the mountain and hides itself. So it's connected to him. Right? A few minutes later, the orb comes back out and he sees it. And now his wife sees it. And then about that time, one orb turns into 100 orbs. And here they come across the desert to him. They stop about a mile out, and all of a sudden, they see these glowing red eyes, little glowing entities like we described, coming at them from across the desert. They get in the truck terrified, scared to death. They're experiencing these little glowing entities outside and the taller ones. And then all of a sudden, a wisp of smoke, and poof, here comes the lady, same lady, comes out and says, it's almost over. I'm here to comfort you. So she came as the comforter. And that story is called the Mojave Incident. It's a real story, and it was told to me by the CIA. And they said, these two stories, there's no way that it could have been. They knew it was real when they heard the story. So it's been reported before.
That's great. That's a great story. And I was just thinking about the Native American, the white buffalo.
Yeah.
That sounds similar to her too. But anyway, there are a lot of really great comments on here, and thank yous. And one person actually saw the firework, things over the lake too. Rhonda's was at an event, but in 2007. But let's see. Someone had, I experienced a golden 4-pointed star, not really a cross, coming through my bedroom window when I was 10 or so. Lasted about 30 seconds. What do you think the significance of that was? And was it a being, entity, or a sign?
It would have been an angelic being, an entity, and coming to put that in your head. So when it's time to wake up, you would be, in other words, I don't know the data, but I know I have in our study group, Dr. Pasolko's more friendly with them than I am, but they know that people that have these experiences have a physical, it shows up physically in the brain. Not everybody can see this stuff. Not everybody can. But those that do generally do all their life. It's part of your blood. It's in your blood. It's physically in your brain. I'm told. So you saw it when you were younger, and it's just back with you when you're an adult now, and you're trying to seek out those answers now. So you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones that was given an insight way back, and now you're at the point where we're going to learn. We're learning the positive side, not some evil alien thing. That's the deception.
That's what they want, to make you think, to keep control of the masses.
Take our faith away.
Yeah, exactly. So here's one. Chris, do you have any sense of what the world will start to look like once we get through this difficult period? And we have heard that in the next 4 years, it'll take probably 4 years to really get on the other side of this muck. So what's your opinion?
When I met the lady, she told me of an alignment. She said that, because I asked her, I said, when is this going to happen? When will the world change? When will we be awakened? She said, when the red star Regulus is setting on the horizon before the sunrise in the gaze of the Sphinx. And they gave me that vision from above the pyramids looking down, and I could see the Sphinx. And on a morning, early morning, this red star of Regulus is sitting on the horizon, and the Sphinx is looking into it. She said, that's when it'll all change. That's when there'll be a new knowledge. That's what I put in writing to the Pentagon. And I had no clue when that would be. Well, a friend of ours, Lisa Hagen, is a publisher, happens to I have friends that are astrologers, and anyhow, they run this through a star program, and it comes out to actually be in alignment on September 23rd of 2026. And that's what she told me when we would all know this new knowledge. And I see peace. I see a peaceful world coming, but about 3 more years of trouble, maybe 2.5. Yeah, stock up, save your. Yeah, I don't want to be a downer.
No, but it gives people some peace just to have an idea of what would be a good.
It's darkness, a great battle of darkness and light, good and evil. This is what it's about, good versus evil, light versus dark, yin, yang, good and bad. But we got an epic battle happening, which is affecting the whole entire planet, and it's all out of balance. And I'm afraid if we let it go too far out of balance, that's when the earth just may become more violent, because it's a living entity just like we are, and we all affect it's like prayer. I learned from some NASA friends, told me, Chris, it's just like the Bible. We're more than one are together, and you go out and you pray, you connect to the spirit world, where these entities are the same way. That's when we all go out and we meditate and have these events where people are sky watching, they may show up because the power of the collective is much greater than the one. And this is one of the things the lady told me. We have to all come together in a new, peaceful world with a maternal energy involved. But that's a few years off. I'm looking 2026 probably.
Okay, good to know. Someone asked, is the COVID part of the quote trouble the lady spoke about?
Yes, it is. And I'm afraid there's more to come.
More COVID.
Something different.
Okay. You have a time frame for that?
It's all coming. Just all, I've seen it over the next 2 or 3 years. I don't think it'll get better gradually, but
still stay safe as best you can.
Yeah, stock up and keep your faith.
Faith's not fear. Yeah. So let's see. Material artifacts such as metal. So could you clarify for me? You refer to the entities as angels, which I interpret as being ethereal, but then you mention material artifacts such as metal. How is it that they are both?
Well, that's the problem that has everybody. That's the conundrum, you might say. Well, let's just say this: when they built this world, when they programmed it, because it's all information, it's all a program. You have to understand that we're in a program, we're in an illusion, and when they made it all like that. They put a spiritual side and a yin yang, good and bad, positive and negative, just like a battery on a car. A NASA friend of mine told me, he said, the easiest way to understand it is we live on a dial, an energy machine that is, the sun is creating energy and we're swimming in it. We're like in an atom. What do you call those particles you can't see? Subatomic particle. Well, we're no more than that. We're just a flea on a dog's back. We think we got it all together, but we have the animals are much smarter than we are. They don't judge, for one. But
can you talk about the item you were asked to hold? Was it still there after you saw the lady?
No, I went back the next day looking for that because all of what happened, when the lady came, I was just taken back. I never went back to look for the thing. And when I did, it was gone. It wasn't there. And I've asked her before, what did this mean? What was symbolic about this? And she said, it's just like humanity. You have no head or no tail, no direction. You're lost right now. This is symbolic to humanity is lost. And without an awakening to not negative beings, but what's really in the program, what's written there, what interferes in our lives, good or bad, are these entities in the sky. They're living up there, and they're monitoring us. They're listening to hear every word. Another friend of mine told me in the aerospace world, he said it's a lot like the movie The Adjustment Bureau. Rent that and watch it. It's Matt Damon, and he's running for president, and you need to watch the movie, and that'll explain a lot of what how these beings interact with us.
What's the name of the movie
The
again?
Adjustment Bureau.
The Adjustment Bureau.
And
Okay.
I've been told that's as near as real as it can get, and I believe it. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time now, but I want to thank Chris so much for coming tonight. You just don't
Okay.
know how wonderful this has been, and I hope it's opened many hearts and minds to the beauty of the lady and the entities who surround us and have contacted you.
They're all around us.
Yeah.
Yeah, always.
That's great. That is wonderful. Thank you. And there have been many people on here who've been saying thank you as well. So I just, I guess I just want to say thank you for everyone who's come. Please join us next month for Garth Roberts. I want to say Garth Brooks because they're both great musicians. But Garth Robertson is going to do the sacred sound healing, how frequency affects matter, and we're going to try to do it in a big space, so his instruments are really going to resonate. So we're still working on that. But again, stay tuned. Go to our social media. We do have the e-flyer. You can go to our website and sign up for that. You'll get 2 emails a month to know what's going on. And throughout the next few months, particularly, I want you to live in faith, not fear, and count your blessings every day. That's my message. And I hope to see you next time, and hope you have a great evening. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Appreciate you guys being here, and I drove a couple hours to get here to do this.
Yeah.
So.
And we appreciate that very much. So anyway, see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
See a lot of applause. There they are.
Have a lot of people in there.
Now we can see you all. Yeah. Those who have cameras on. Yay. Good.
You guys
Yeah, a
should
lot of
see
people.
what
Very
I
good.
have in this thing.
You can show some pictures while people are still sitting here.
Oh, let's see.
I'm trying to end the show, but
The ring it burned in my yard.
put it up close to the camera. Wow.
They didn't tell anything about all this. They just wanted to make me sound like I was lying. But this was the kind of evidence that was there. Let's see. There were 3 of those. This is some of the stuff that I've been involved with or in.
I like that Asian thing you showed me before, the Asian picture.
Yeah, this is a starfighter. This is what NASA uses to chase a rocket up. When the camera's on the ground, can't see it anymore, they get in this thing and they follow it up. They have rockets on that to take it up out of orbit and stuff. It'd be crazy. But there's a lot of things that, see the triangle? Remember the triangle on the little being I drew on his chest? That triangle on his chest got a lot of people's attention, and that's how I ended up with this part. It's a piece of the metal. It's one piece. They're the size of that one, and there's a lot more of it. See, there's a piece. You can see the size of it.
That was in New York.
No, this was another guy.
Oh,
This it's got one that is will get some attention. There is where the metal could start dripping. You can see it dripping. These orbs, sometimes when they come near, they have metal dripping off the orb. That's onto the cement. See, Tom DeLong has that piece there, and there's another piece. But this one more, if I
One more
can
in the
share
middle.
that,
Yeah.
one that is different than all the rest.
Now, he was showing me earlier picture, a drawing of ancient Asian little angel or seraphim, whatever, with arrows and
Cherubs.
cherubs.
Okay, here we go on that.
But that's okay. We're past time, but
You've heard of the wheels within the wheels on the Ezekiel in the Bible, the wheel within the wheel, UFO. Well, there's the Japanese or the Asians wheel within the wheel. All the same, children angels bearing spears or arrows, just like Cupid. They tell of a race of childlike angels that are muscular and strong, and you see them depicted all over the place, baby angels, and that's who I believe they are. I'm not saying they're not aliens out there, but I never met one.
well, thank you very much. We're going to end now. Yeah, we'll try to end now. See you next time. I hope everybody comes and signs up for it next month. Bye-bye, everybody.
See y'all.